Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonkson, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hey, today we're talking with my good friend Chris Norman. We're talking about what happens when a church feels stuck and how do you end up kind of breaking that feeling of being stuck and get to that next level. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you to check out churchboom.org and then click the tab that says Church Boom University. We have a leadership platform that's ongoing where you can be a part of a ongoing learning process. Books are sent to you. Master classes are available to you on building a leadership ladder in your church or building generosity in your church. There's just tons of stuff that comes your way and you can be a part of, your team can be a part of. And we believe that leaders are learners, and we believe that you've got to set up a system to help you constantly learn. And that's what Church Boom University is all about. So check out churchboom.org, click the tab that says Church Boom University and sign up today. I know you will absolutely love it. But let's jump into the coaching conversation. It's a great one. Thanks for jumping on the podcast, and let's jump into it, man. How can I serve you? What's on your mind?
So, Chris, you're working with a lot of churches. Some are growing under your leadership and coaching, and others are stuck. So, what would you say are some of the most common traps you see for guys, for pastors who, one, when their church is growing? Like, what are some of the traps? Stay away from this as your church is growing. What are some of the traps you see for those who are stuck? Maybe a mindset, maybe an approach to talk about. So in other words, like if we're in a season of growth, as we are, what do I want to stay away from? Or what does that leader want to stay away from? Or man, we're in another season where we're just like, what do we want to stay away from? Make sense?
No, it does make sense. It's a great question. So when a church creates momentum, you and I have talked about this recently. When there is momentum, momentum is an awesome thing. It's the great exaggerator, and it also hides weakness. And so we have to be aware that when momentum is taking off, I think a few things in no specific order, but first, that momentum that we're experiencing, so the church is going from whatever to whatever, and it's creating this great momentum. First is, I feel like pastors at that point ignore the weaknesses that they have. They'll start to ignore the processes that are not really dialed in. They ignore the fact that people are not getting discipled, they're not growing and developing, and there's various service. They ignore the problem that they're having with a staff member that's getting a little toxic, and they just don't want to deal with it because why rock the boat? Because we're experiencing momentum. And because it's the great exaggerator, momentum makes us feel better than we really are, and it also hides weakness. I think one of the greatest things is that pastors have a tendency to ignore what they need to fix before that momentum starts to flatten out. Whether, again, that's processes or systems or becoming more mission critical as a pastor, become more mission critical as a leader. They are excusing someone's excusing someone on the team who may be going toxic, primarily because they do that because they're usually enamored by someone's talent. And when you're enamored by someone's talent, you tend to ignore and look the other way. Just look at sports. It happened to the Lakers recently. It happened with back in the day with Terrell Owens. It's like, he's talented. Yeah, but he's messing up everything because he's toxic. And that happens in sports. It happens in organizations, and it definitely happens in churches. And the more momentum you get, the more it's just like, don't rock the boat. And so don't change anything, don't fix anything. And that is I personally think that's one of the biggest failures is like, no, dude, you've got to stay ahead of it. Okay. What's the conversation you need to have?
Right.
What do you need to deal with? Who's getting toxic? You're growing in momentum, but where are you weak? What needs to get fixed? And they don't want to rock the boat, but they don't understand that momentum's going to potentially or eventually plateau off, and they've got to get ahead of it. So I would say those are some of the more natural things. And then when a leader, when you start getting into that, okay, that church used to be 500, now it's 1,000, now it's going to 1,500, and I've seen a lot of that. leaders, it's amazing how lead pastors have a very difficult time getting out of the weeds. That very difficult time getting out of the weeds. They treat the church as if it's still 300.
Right.
They feel like everything rises and falls on them, that if they don't do it, it's not going to get done right, and all the stuff, all the cliches. But the point is like they don't lead from a higher level. They stay in this sort of lower sort of level area and kind of stay into the weeds of everything, and they find it hard to make the jump. And so, man, I'll be talking to a pastor that's got 1,500, and we've seen the thing grow from 700 to 1,200 to 15. It's now pushing up 16, 17. And I'm talking to the guy. He's like, yeah, I'm running to Costco to pick up the hot dogs for the picnic. I'm like, we don't need you doing that.
Right.
The organization doesn't need you doing that. And that's, an exaggeration, but not too much, because I've heard some crazy things. So it's, and I think that it's hard for them to move up to that level because they're so used to operating down here. That's problem number one. Number two is they don't want to be viewed as a person that doesn't serve, that doesn't get involved, that's not willing to get their hands dirty. And I think they've gotten used to just the way things have been. But they end up becoming the lid to the organization, not the capacity.
Right.
So you and I talked about that before, where they start ignoring they start thinking, well, this is the best it'll get. I'm like, no, you put the lid on there. God didn't put the lid on there. God puts capacity on us. He doesn't put lids on us. And so I think that they get themselves into the lid by staying in the weeds of the organization rather than getting above it and moving the thing forward and focusing on the things that are the biggest rocks, the things they have to focus on. So all of that is where I kind of think sometimes pastors kind of get stuck when we're growing and they get into these pitfalls of their life.
Yeah, that's great. So do you see, like, hang on that for a second, two
Yeah.
things, like follow-up questions with that.
Yeah.
Two things. One, as they are growing and trying to get out of the weeds, what I've noticed there are some, like, there's just some things that, hey, we like doing. I like, being in creative, or I like this or that. How much of that do you just say, sorry, you've got to step out of it? How much of that do you say, you know what, this is who you are, keep yourself involved in that aspect of it? How do you cross those thresholds?
Yeah.
Because you run with guys that are, their churches are doing incredible, and they're leading from such a high level, but they're staying involved in certain things that are part of their DNA. Like, this is just
right.
who I am. And it makes the church expression follow that DNA.
Yeah.
With your staying involved in it. Right. How do you delineate that? Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you and I, in our times of coaching, if we've gone through kind of those 4 different phases of mission critical. I don't know if we ever done that.
Yeah,
before?
No, we haven't done that yet. No.
Okay. So there's sort of like if you look at if you had a target, if I had a whiteboard and I was drawing, I would draw like a bullseye, like a dartboard. Here's the target, and then this kind of an outer circle, then a third one, and then a fourth one. And this is a quick version of it, but basically that middle one is what you're going for. That's your mission critical. Mission critical, if I don't do blank, our future's threatened. That's what I always say about mission critical. But what's interesting is the outside things of that dartboard pull us away. So the quick, and I'll get to what you're talking about, it's on the second level. That first level that pulls us away from mission critical is called external pressure. External pressure looks like this. Hey, Pastor Chris, I wish we had longer worship. Why can't we be more verse by verse? Why can't we?
I've never heard that before.
Oh,
never.
Heard that. Oh, no, never. And so why can't we be more like it? And so there's this external pressure, and we as pastors, if we're not careful, we give into it because we want to be liked. We don't want people to be upset at us. Maybe they're big givers, and we're like, man, we're really relying on that income. Maybe they're related to 98 people in the church, and you're like, man, if I don't do what they want, then this could cause problems. So we give into that outer layer on the dartboard. We give into the external pressure to want to be liked, to appease, to make sure everybody's happy. So we give an external pressure. Now, the second one is the one that is really more of what you were talking about. Like, a pastor says, I don't want to get out of the weeds in this area because I really like that. That second level is called meaningful. So the outside one's called external pressure, but the second one is called meaningful. Meaningful are the things, and this is what it's described as. It's the things we like to do, but are still not mission critical to the organization. We like to do them. So, give you some examples. I knew a pastor that, I think it was Shania Twain or someone like that. He was the guitar player for Shania Twain for like 7 years or 8 years. Left that, became on staff at a church, and then became the lead pastor. I'll just give you an example. So he's obviously phenomenal at guitar. He wants me to do some coaching with him. So I go there on a Sunday to speak. I get there early in the morning to speak at at his 3 services in the morning. He's on stage playing guitar. I ask him the next morning, his church runs 1,000 people. Why are you on stage playing guitar? He goes, and he's a very humble man. He's like, oh, I'm not being arrogant, but I'm the best guitar player here.
Oh, yeah.
I go, okay, who's the next best guitar player? Oh, Greg is the next best guitar player. I go, do you notice the difference between you and Greg? Oh, yeah, I noticed the difference between me and Greg. I go, would I notice the difference between you and Greg? No. Then let Greg play. So it doesn't make any difference to any of the congregation, because the difference between your A+ playing and his A- playing, no one knows the difference. Doesn't make any difference in the worship experience. No one's going to tell the difference. But we don't need you doing that. Everybody has something that's meaningful. I'm really good at graphics. I'm really good at branding. I'm really good at whatever. And as a pastor grows, I say, man, the time you spend in that meaningful has to reduce. It has to. I'm not saying it disappears, because I think you have to do those things that are meaningful, but it has to reduce. It's the youth pastor who told me at a church of 2,000, he only had like 40 kids in his youth group. He goes, but we're real personal. We're real discipleship oriented. Every day I pick up someone from the school or whatever, and I meet them and we go get frozen yogurt and play basketball. I'm like, okay, so let's say you do that for 40 guys in your youth group. And you do that Monday through Friday or 3 days a week. It's going to take you 3 months back to get to them. And I told him, I go, I'm sorry, you just can't do that anymore.
That's great, Chris. Yeah.
You just can't. It's meaningful to you. You really like it, but you can't do it. And then the third level, real quick, is called highly important. It's the things that's really, really important, and they need to get done, but they're not your mission critical. They still need to get done. And you might have to spend a little time doing them, but it's not your mission critical. It's not at all your mission critical. So I think that a pastor probably dips his toe into the highly important and dips his toe into meaningful. He just can't take a full plunge into them, because the more he grows, and the church grows, the more he's got to become
great picture.
Mission critical.
It's a great picture. It's great.
Yeah. So that's how I would look at that. Yeah.
Well, let's go to the other side of that, because we talked about, so as a church is in a momentum phase, those are the pitfalls we need to watch out for. But what about when you're in one of those, man, we're stuck, we're hitting a ceiling that we just can't get past, or maybe we've been here for a year or whatever. Are there some negative, we know there's maybe some things you got to think through, but are there some patterns that you need to make sure you guard yourself from? Because honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've always seen is, as we've grown, we'll grow, and then nothing grows like this. It's up, and then it comes down, and then it goes up, and it comes down. Yeah. And I what are some things, as you're in a little season, that you have to guard yourself from thinking and doing that would keep you from hitting that next growth season? Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%. So I do see that a lot, because I primarily, not in every case, but 70-80% of the people that reach out to the church boom world they're stuck. That's it, and now you got some that are like, hey, we want to go multi-site. We want to do this. We want to do that. We're having momentum. I don't want to lose momentum, but 70% of them, 7 out of 10 are stuck. First thing I always do is I always take them through the first day, what I call a first day experience. And the reason I do that, and I'll call it first day, or sometimes I call it day one, and I'll get to that in a minute, is because their first, I think, is a mental block. I think the longer a church stays at a number, the harder it is to break. They're moving from concrete or cement to concrete constantly. It's wet cement becoming concrete. But man, I'm telling you, and I know I don't want it to make it all sound Tony Robbins like, but they get this mental stuck in their mind, and they can't seem to get past it. And so we take them to this day one experience where it's like, okay, so let's take a guy that's got 200 people in his church, got $200,000 in his checking account, and has a paid off building. I mean, I see this all the time. Maybe church has been around since, in the 40s. So he's the 10th pastor or whatever. So he's all, it's not working, nothing's working, it's not working, And I literally just did this in the last 24 hours with a pastor. And he has 500. So let's go with that. He got 500, about 250,000 in his account, paid off building. 60,000 square foot paid off building. And so he's all discouraged. Like, we're not growing. We haven't grown in years. And so I say, okay, let's pretend that I turn off the light. We walk out. We come back in Monday morning, and it's day one. This is your first day on the job. Let's first look at what you have. You got 500 people, $250,000, and a paid off building. That's an amazing first day. And so he's like, well, I guess if you look at it like that, it is. I go, it's incredible. Like, that's an incredible day one. Like, you got all that,
Yeah.
Okay, now it's day one. You're going to want to come out of the gate flying. You don't want to look like, what would you do? It is amazing,
right,
the ideas they already have that they haven't really entertained because they got so stuck in the mud and where they were and in their situation that they didn't have the power to break through mentally and go, I got 500 people, $250,000 in a paid off building. Day one, man, I would do this. He started telling me I would do this. I go, then why aren't you?
That's gold, Chris. That's gold.
And so
it's that mental reset. Like, okay,
100%.
On launch day, when you go launch on launch day, you're dreaming, you're going, and here you are, however many years in, and you got 500 is a pretty significant launch team, and that's a pretty good budget to go launch in a new season. That's incredible. Yeah. That's a great way to foster that.
For me, it's that once they get that mental breakthrough, then the processes start showing up. Then, then I can dive in with them and, okay, well, that's good. Let's do this. Let's change this on leadership. Let's do this. Let's fix this volunteer culture. Like, then I can start helping him and tweaking him. But when he stays there in that mental kind of state, I tell guys all the time, man, it's not what you are that holds you back. It's what you think you're not. And that's what's holding you back. It's not what you are that's holding you back. It's not what the church is that's holding you back. It's what you think it's not. That's what's holding you back. So let's get a day one experience. Monday morning, what are you going to do now? They always have ideas. They're just not implementing those ideas. And man, dreams, I tell people all the time that dreams without discipline always result in disappointment. So you've got these big dreams, but you don't have the discipline. You got these ideas, you got ideation without any creation. And now you end up with this frustration in your life. It's always going to happen like that. So what would you do? Let's nail it down. Let's figure it out. They got some ideas in their head.
Yeah.
They're just so in the weeds. And a lot of it is they've been stuck. A lot of it is that they're looking at everybody else that's growing. Some of it is their fear of making changes because, they don't want to upset anybody and lose what they have. I think that's weird. In church planning, I think that happens, by the way. I tell church planners all the time. I think in church planning, it's like if you drew a circle and you drew arrows pointing out, that's church planning. Go, go, grow, 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 grow. And then when you have something to protect, those arrows turn inward. I see it all the time. In the beginning, you got nothing to lose. Like, go for it, man. First year, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, go for it. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, we got 900 people. We have a big budget. My job relies on this. I now have a mortgage. All of a sudden the arrows start pointing in and you start protecting. And when you go into the mode of protecting is when you start making wrong decisions. Because you're protecting constantly. You're not taking risk. You're worried what someone's going to think. You want to appease. You want to be liked. All that stuff starts happening. So anyway,
that's great, Chris. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's
But
good.
mental breakthroughs is the day one, man.
That's huge.
Because a lot of guys, they get stuck in that. They really do. So
No, I think that's a
anyway,
good reset, even for like a team. That's something you could do. Get the team together. Hey guys, come on. It's day one.
yeah,
Let's dream together. Let's whiteboard together. That's great.
yeah,
I love that.
right. And the day one, again, on that day one exercise is yes, let's dream, but let's first look at what we have. It's like the guy,
Yeah.
back to the guy with 500. I go, so your worst problem here is you're in the top 11% of all churches in America. You got $250,000 and you got to pay it off 60,000 square foot building. That's the problem you're having?
Right.
He's like, well, I never looked at it like that. And I go, that's the point. You need to look. So that's what they need to see what they have. It's not that bad. And even if it's a guy that, okay, that sounds like a lot. But even if a guy's like, okay, you have 85 people that love you. You've got a building that's paid off, and you got $100,000. That's still pretty good. I mean, it's not nothing, And so
Right.
when people look at what they have, it's like, oh, okay, I guess I do have something.
That's really good, Chris. I love that.
Yeah.
I
What
love
else
that.
you got?
Yeah.
Keep
So,
chatting.
so your church is growing, and you're putting systems in place, and how do you make sure that as a church is growing numerically, that there's the individuals are growing spiritually? So does that make sense? So that
Yep.
your check marks, because anytime you talk about church growth to anyone who hasn't dove into, and it never makes sense to me. It's like the Bible says, "Go into the world and make disciples." There's this go mandate, like reach. As long as heaven and hell are real, we are
Yeah.
going to grow. I always say, we don't apologize. It is all about the numbers, because every one matters, right? And they're worth
Yeah.
going after. So there is this. I think when somebody starts saying something like it's not about the numbers, or we're, you just got to be content with what you have. I feel like it's a pastor who's become afraid of trying to live out the Great Commission, trying to live that out. And I think what happens is, trying to set this up for you, is they get afraid of like system that doesn't sound spiritual, or step one, step two, said, oh, that just feels like it's more mechanical than it is living and spiritual. And I don't know if I want to do those, because they look up and they see themselves, with a growing church is growing, but numerically, but
Yep.
people aren't growing spiritually. And the reality is, we talked a little bit about this. We actually, there's, however you end up interpreting COVID, part of that interpretation, we talked about this, is man, we had a lot of people in the church who
Yep.
were not rooted in Jesus and actually walking with Jesus. They weren't growing spiritually. So we had maybe created these systems that got people there, but didn't get them deeper and walking with Jesus. So how does somebody just guard that? Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's what you and I are after. That's what I'm after, right? We're running after that. So what would you say, just to pull us into that kind of a mind frame? Remind ourselves, here's what the systems are doing. How do we make sure that as we grow numerically, our individuals are growing spiritually?
Yeah. Do you think, just in that question, are you saying, talking more about getting out of the mindset that, hey, it's not at all about numbers, or are you saying about both? Like, how do you make
No,
sure that both are happening?
I think anybody really, Chris, anyone listening to you or coming
Yep.
alongside you to get coaching, they're already thinking, I got to reach more people, right? Like I'm already past I know it's not I know I'm going after, between now and the day I see Jesus face to face, we're
Yep.
going to reach a lot of people.
Right.
Okay. But now, how do we make sure, is maybe a better way to ask it, how do we make sure we don't have another COVID experience where the not COVID itself, but the church
Yep.
we got a lot of people, but maybe not a lot of disciples.
Yeah. That's good.
The goal of what we're doing is to create disciples.
Yep.
End of the day, right?
Yep.
So maybe
Yeah.
mark a path to that. How do we make sure we are making disciples in the midst of
100%. So no, 100%. And we just talked about this recently. You know, that whole COVID thing was, at least I had a philosophy. I'm not whatever, but as soon as people's ability, or as soon as people's situation was where they couldn't go to church per se, their whole faith disappeared. So people, hey, I had 500 in my church and like 150 haven't come back yet. And where are they?
Right.
Well, their whole world, their whole faith was attached to church attendance. And as soon as that was clipped away, then there was nothing left of their church attendance. So I 100% agree with that. So for me personally, I think number one, got to grow numbers. You nailed it. Recently, we're in front of a group of people, your staff actually, when I was doing some executive coaching with you, you said, Chris, I think you're an evangelist at heart. I'm like, 100%. Like, I am all about the lost coming to Jesus, 100%. But I don't want to just be that, because I realize if their whole world is attached to this church attendance, they give their life to Christ, and it's really just church attendance, it's gonna fall short. I think that a couple things. One, I think that metrics are important. I think we have to evaluate everything. Most churches are only evaluating two things: money and attendance. That's the report. I see the reports. Churches send me their report, and I'm like, I look at it, and I'm like, that's how much money they brought in. That's how much attendance they have, and they're only monitoring. And what doesn't get identified gets ignored. And you have to identify those areas that are important. So I don't think it's just money and attendance, though I think that's important. Well, let's first start with the attendance. Okay, I think that's important, no doubt about it. Jesus leaves 99 to find the one. Well, how do you know one's missing? Because you counted. So I think that's an important part of it. But then you drop down to money. It's not just the offering. I want to know how many givers we have. I want to know how many people are in tier one. They're giving between $1 to $1,500 a year. How many are giving between $15 to $3,000? How many are giving $3,000 to $5,000? And how many are giving $5,000 above? 4 different tiers. Why is that important? Because next year at this time, I want to know, did 48% of the people in tier one go to tier two? Because if they didn't, something's wrong in the discipleship. So everybody looks at the last final number in giving. And I'm thinking in my mind, it's not the last final number in giving. What I want to know is, how many givers do we have? How many units do we have? Is these people moving up to the next level? Because if they're not, there's a discipleship issue. So even in the money, I think it's got to break out even farther. If you're really going to track people's personal development, then again, you go into the practical things of baptism, small groups, serving. If you do a discipleship class, like I love Rooted. I love the Rooted thing. I think it's great. I think it works. And why reinvent the wheel? So that thing, but those metrics I think are really important, but I think you have to break those metrics out, and you have to make sure that everything is going up and to the right. Now, not everything, like you said, it goes up and then it comes up, but to some degree it's doing this, but you want to make sure it's going up, but it can't be like, man, attendance is growing, but no one's serving. Attendance is growing, but the groups are staying the same. Attendance is growing and our offerings are staying the same.
Yep.
Attendance is growing,
Yep.
Hardly any move. The needle's not moving in baptism.
Right.
There's a problem there somewhere.
Yep.
And
that's what I was trying to get you to getting you to speak to, because there's that, illustration of the funnel, like you got the, the crowd in the community, and all that. I think pastors like certain parts of the funnel more than other parts of the funnel. Does that make sense? Like,
Yep.
man, I'm really focused on the core, and it's all about the core. Well, you're not going to have a core if you don't have a crowd, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
so teaching yourself to think through that. Do you have in your what that looks like? Like, all right, we're gonna reach them. Got there in our community, and then once they're here, we're going to get them in small groups, and maybe it is that, and because a lot of churches, I was just curious for you.
Yeah.
And you're maybe go with this direction, Chris. It's a church plant or a church that you're working with that's going, hey, we just don't have a process. We're reaching people because we just launched, and we got all the mailers out there, and people are showing up. No, they're here. What's the spiritual path I want to lead them on so that they do grow? Do you have that marked out?
Yep, I do. So the thing that I always teach, the thing that I help other churches, and it shows up in all our programs, is what we call boxes and batons. It's our own way of tracking what's happening. So, if I was on a whiteboard, I would say, okay, there's 3 boxes. Box 1, box 2, box 2. So I draw out a little box. I call it box 1, box 2, box 3. In my world, I call it shallow, middle, deep. That's what I call it. Shallow, middle, deep. So, but some people like to word it differently. So we'll just call it box 1, 2, 3. But for my world, shallow, middle, deep. In that shallow end is what's going to live in that box. So just imagine there's 3 boxes on a whiteboard, and I'm writing in box 1. I write invite culture. Then underneath that, I write Sunday experience. Then underneath that, I write connect. And then after that, I might write next steps. That's all going to live there. So the invite culture is, are we creating invite culture? What's our Sunday experience like? Connect is like that Connect Corner Welcome Center. Are we moving enough people there? That sounds interesting, but it's like if we have 10 guests and only one person goes there, there's a problem. From that Connect Corner, are they going to a next step? Whatever that is, church growth, track, next step, class, whatever it is.
Right.
Okay. From there, are they going to box 2? Box 2, current for my world, but everybody's got their own thing. I put in box 2, serving and groups, small groups, whatever you call it. Are they making a next step there? So now I took a person from the invite culture, like, okay, David came to church, Bob came to church, whatever, and he stopped by the Welcome Center, and he went to that next step, and then he took that next step, and he got into serving in groups. Then in that third box, I've got 2 other things that live in there. One is leadership, and one is spiritual experiences. Leadership and spiritual experiences. Then I'm looking, okay, now how many people are we moving to that? So now I'm going to start tracking. How many people are becoming leaders? Because that number, even though it's a lower number, it needs to track with their attendance.
Right.
And then the spiritual experiences, okay, we're doing this 40-day fast thing. We're doing this devotional thing. We're doing this worship night once a month. We're doing this rooted class, whatever it is, whatever their spiritual experiences are. What are those numbers looking like? Now, the key is this: everything is a baton. So it's boxes and batons. Everything batons to the next thing. Everything batons to the next thing.
I like that language. That's good.
And so it's like, okay, hey, Welcome Center, or I use the word connect. It's like everybody's got a little welcome booth or whatever at their church, and it's like, okay, let's walk through that. You had 10 first-time guests. How many people stopped by the Welcome Center? Oh, only 1. Problem. Okay, no, 7 people stopped by. Great. How many people went to the next step? 1. So 1 out of the 7. So at the welcome thing, what are you doing? The whole thing is not just to welcome. The whole thing is to advertise and promote the next step. Now we're going to monitor that number. How many of that? So if 10 people showed up to next steps, how many percentage of them took the next step in the box 2? And then of that, how many percentages are doing that? The thing that I really, really like, I like it. It's simple. It's clear. It's a dashboard. You know quickly whether you're winning or not.
Right. That's great.
Where you're winning, where you're not winning. You know what the problem is. And the thing I really, really like for churches that do it right, in my opinion, is when they put a champion over each box. So now those 3 champions plus the executive pastor or the pastor become the SLT, the strategy leadership team. And now it's real easy. So role playing, I got my 3 people say, it's not a 45-minute meeting. I meet with them every other week. All right, how we doing, man? How many people have come to how's our invite culture going? Are we telling the stories we need to tell? Are we doing the videos? How many people stopped by the Welcome Center? Oh my gosh, how many people went to Next Steps? Okay, we had 15 people at Next Steps, but only 2 took the next step. Boom, everybody stops and says, how do we solve that problem? Then we go to the next steps. Oh, it seems like our next step is going great. How many people are moving to leadership and spiritual? Oh, no, that number is a problem. So the 4 of us, myself and the 3 people that are champions, are the SLT. We're quickly identifying where the problem is and solving it. Now, that meeting can literally be a stand-up meeting because it's not long. We're running the same play over and over and over. All we're doing is tweaking when it's not going right. And that's all we're doing. We're just adjusting. And you can figure out where it's going wrong in about 2 minutes.
Right. And those are your measurables. Those are the
100%.
You measure what matters. Those are the things you're measuring, talking through and looking at. Yep. And then you see, I love the baton analogy because because the question isn't just what are our boxes, but what are we doing to get people from one box to the next box? And is that effective?
Yep.
If you got all these people coming in, but they're not moving, but our groups, we had, we added 500 people in the last year, but groups have only grown by,
Right. Exactly.
100 people or whatever,
Whatever.
50
Whatever.
people. And yeah, you're
Yep.
going, okay, we got to fix that. That's
Yep.
great, Chris.
It's easy to fix, but you've also taken measurables, like you said. You've taken measurables. I mean, every measurable. Think about just in that little 3 boxes. How many guests are we getting? Measurable. How many people are showing up on Sunday? Measurable. How many people are getting into groups and serving? Measurable. How many are becoming leaders? Measurable. In 3 boxes. But the key is to put a champion over every box.
Yep.
They develop the team that makes that box happen. And their whole thing is they make that box happen. So if I'm in charge of box 1, hey, dude, once they go to next step, they're out of my box. Like I did my job, or I'm in box 2. Hey, man, once they go. So everybody's managing a box and leading a box, but they're doing it with the executive pastor, the lead pastor. And you can so quickly identify the problem, which is the most important thing.
Right.
So anyway.
No, I love that. I think it's important to have that structure in your mind, the steps.
Yeah.
It's not just systems for system's sake. It's systems that work to produce what we're after: disciples, people growing. And I just love it. I wanted to hear you make that connection between the systems are living. There's life in it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people get afraid of that. They haven't thought through it and the end of it.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, that's kind of where that lives. So, and I love it because I think it's just simple. I think it's easy. We have taught this to hundreds of churches that run 100 people to 500 people. I've also taught it to churches of 5,000 to 12,000. And the beautiful thing is it works. On any level, it works. You don't need to change it. You're tweaking constantly, but you don't need to change it. And it's kind of nice when it's like, it works at a church of 200 and a church of 2,000. It works either way.
Right. Scalable.
Very scalable, very easy to manage. Not that hard. Just get the right leaders and go, man, and go. And man, it just starts this conveyor belt, if you will, just starts moving from left to right. Most churches think from top to bottom. This is our church. Here's all our programs. They need to start thinking from left to right. How do we get people from here to here in a very easy to understand area? So anyway, I'm a big fan of thinking left to right, not top to bottom.
That's really good. Like it.
So anything else, man?
How much time we got, Chris?
Just a couple minutes. If you want to go one more, if not, that's okay. Totally up to you.
Do a lightning round on this. When it comes to hiring staff, what are some of the biggest mistakes that growing churches make? So you're growing, you need to hire, you go to hire. Biggest mistakes. Don't do this. Or best practices. You take it in the direction you want.
Yep. All right. Got it. So number 1, they didn't create a leadership pipeline. And because they didn't create a leadership pipeline, they got to hire on the outside and take the risk on DNA and culture. Major mistake, in my opinion. Secondly is they start getting desperate. When desperation rises, standards fall. So now their standard starts falling. It's like, we need a worship guy. We'll get this guy. We need a youth pastor. We'll get this guy. The standard starts falling. Thirdly is they don't vet properly to not make sure that the person has the experience and they can do the job and all that. But do they match the core values of the pastor? They have to match the core values of the pastor. Very different than aspirational values. They have to match the core values of the pastors, not the values of the church, the values of the pastor. When they do not match the values of the pastor, the relationship is eventually doomed or tension is going to come. So that's a lightning round of the 3 things that I think that I look at and I'm thinking this is where people make the major mistake when they're hiring. So that's
huge. That's huge, Chris.
That was 60 seconds or less. How's that?
That's amazing. I want to dig into so much more of that, especially those core values are like of the pastor of the team. That's huge.
Oh, dude, it is. It is the thing, man. I'm telling you, I've taught this to pastors of churches of thousands, and every time they're like, I wish I would have known this 20 years ago. It's what are your core values as a lead pastor? That's the thing.
I don't know how much time we have, but just for those listening,
right.
What a core, give me an example. You're talking to the pastor. Here are your core values that they just kind of go, oh my gosh, I never I just
Yeah.
think for people to hear it, it's
Yeah.
important to hear.
So yeah, I'll give you the lightning round on that. There's really core aspirational and accidental values. Accidental values are the things that you created in your organization that are now a value that are not good. We accept mediocrity. We kind of don't follow through with things. We start things and never finish them. That's become an accidental core value. Okay, aspirational values, that's the easiest one. That's the ones that everybody has in their church. Oh, we want to be a church of generosity, a church that loves Jesus, a church that cares about the world. Yeah, okay, great. But that's aspirational because not everybody in your church is like that. The core values is the part that matters, in my opinion, for the hiring process matters the most. So it can't be 25 core values. It's usually 3 to 5. The core values are things that matter to you the most, and the things that you are no matter what. That's the key about core values. It's the core values are the things you are no matter what. You cannot not be them. Like, it's not like you have to work towards it. It's just who you are, no
Give an
matter
example.
what.
Like
Okay, here we go.
What are yours?
Okay, I'll tell you my core values. So I had my coach do them for me years ago, and he said, okay, your core values is you are all about relevancy. You hate things that are not relevant to the society and to the world you're trying to reach. Number 2 is you love outreach and you like risk. You want to risk. Number 3 is you love growing. You just want things to grow. You get bored when they're not. Then he gave me a 4th one, which was hilarious. He said, and then the 4th one, now this is after he interviewed. Now keep in mind, he interviewed 20 team members. So he interviewed my wife, he interviewed 20 team members, and he comes back and he says, this is what your core values are. Because I was like, I don't know what they are. I like this. I like this. So he interviews all these people. He comes back and he says, okay, and the 4th one is sarcasm. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? And then he goes, sarcasm. And I'm like, he's my coach. And I'm like,
yeah, right.
How is sarcasm a core value? And he says, here's the thing. When you know your core values and you hire someone that doesn't live in that arena, you're going to have tension with that person. Then he tricked me because he said, all right, who's the last person you had to let go of? You fired. And I'm like, okay, I got the name in my head. And he goes, what was the problem with the guy? And I said, oh, the guy can't take a joke. And he goes, what did you say? And I'm like,
it's so great.
Oh yeah. Isn't it true?
Great. It's so great, Chris.
It is so the truth.
And I think it sets people free to just go, this is my DNA. It's how God made me to lead. Right. You just embrace it and run with it.
100%. So, you look at a core value. This guy's about growth. This guy's about family. I had a friend of mine that he just loves doing church as a family. Everything's about being as a family. We want the team. And he is so into his staff being a family. And he hired someone that the wife just straight said to me, I ain't hanging out. I ain't going on vacation with these people. This is what we're doing. Now, the pastor, the associate pastor, the guy's the wife, husband, whatever, great leader, great guy. They're not that. They don't value that. So there's this, we 10 went and did this and this guy didn't. And I'm like, you hired someone that didn't match your core values and now there's tension. So core values are insane. And the way you find them is you ask the people that are closest to you 2 questions. What does, I know my name's Chris, but maybe people don't know your name is Chris. Was Chris and Tatum, that's your wife, Chris and Tatum, what are their core values? Okay, you ask 10, 15 people that really know you. Like, what is the thing that matters to them the most? Then, okay, they'll answer it a certain way. Then you flip it to the other side and says, what most frustrates them with staff? So if you don't get a good answer on the core value, when you get the answer on what frustrates you with staff, you'll get the answer because they're like, oh, they hate people that don't work hard. Oh, they hate people that show up late. I'm like, okay, here we go. Now we're getting their core values. Follow through is a core value. Work ethic is a core value. So when you hire people, they're so relational. Relational is a core value. Identify. So you ask them, what is their core value? Then flip to the other side and say, what really frustrates them? That's where you get the best answers. And then you narrow it down to 3 to 5, and internally, I can't have anybody that's close to me on the team that doesn't match this, because if it happens, the tension and probably the end of the relationship will come.
That's gold. I think it's actually undervalued. Like that, being able to bring that in and implement it in your hiring and in your, just how you're guarding
100%.
There's could be like be on team,
Yep.
maybe that you don't have that same flow with, but when they're close to you and you're running, that you've got to have that
You have to have it. It makes
alignment.
all the difference, man. Who you'll hire, and it makes the difference how long they'll stay on your team.
That's huge.
Anyway, hey, man, I got another one coming up, but dude, thanks for stopping by and for hanging out.
I love it.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Chris, for your time.
Absolutely, man. All right, have a good day, bud.
You too.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the conversation with my buddy Chris, and I want to remind you again to check out churchboom.org and click the tab that says Church Boom University. It is an ongoing learning platform for leaders. You get master classes on great subjects that we all deal with: leadership pipelines, generosity, volunteer, how to cast vision better. Just a lot of great stuff on there. Sam Chan has some stuff on there. Rob Ketterling has stuff on there. Master classes. You get resources sent to you. There's just a lot to be offered at our Church Boom University. So make sure to check out churchboom.org and just decide I am going to be a learner, and I'm going to set myself up to keep on learning by joining the Church Boom University at churchboom.org. We will see you next time on the Fly on the Wall podcast.